So this is an overlap for us. It's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Just when you thought the most useless testimony couldn't get dumber takes, Glenn Beck parachutes in to make it even more idiotic, and I'm very excited. Now, I have gone over this guy's testimony. This is Whistleblower X. And what he ultimately said was the same shit that Shapley said. They were kind of on the same team, and it amounted to fuck all. It was nothing. Seriously. Thank you, Tobias, for the super sticker. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Also, in the videos that we put out, if you just want to drop by occasionally and go, hi, you're awesome. Hello. I think this is frightening and terrible. What you do is a crime against humanity. Just write something in there. And I say this because I know there are trolls present. Anything you write helps the channel. So just don't use any racial epithets or any, bigoted language. I know that's difficult for you, but just dial it back a notch so it stays up. I want your comment to actually be there, especially if you're like, copy Marxist person of thing of what I do, whatever you write. You're probably C-lister, actor, what are you, long-haired, transgender, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff when you write that is fine. Just use language you could use in polite company if you've ever had that experience. Please use that in your discourse, and that way it could stay up and it can help me with the algorithm, because nothing helps us in the algorithm like our beloved trolls. Oh, God bless you. All right, so call me a Trotskyite. That'll work. All right, here we go. Shocking testimony. For the record, I saw all the testimony. Shocking is not a word I would use.
Well, hello, Mr. Stu.
Glenn, thank you. I appreciate you starting the show with by coming after me and making false accusations.
Well, I think that's the way the world works now.
Well, okay.
You know what I mean?
It is your show.
So you're just doing it to fit in.
To fit in, I want to be part of the cool kids club, and I had.
Never going to happen. Also, way to cut a clip together where the rest of us don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Absolutely no idea.
Could have just added a chunk of the thing and then put it a little bit, one edit. It's too much to ask. Fuck me, who am I?
What business my son was in. I don't have any idea.
You never talked to your son about any of his business dealings whatsoever?
No.
Well, wait, we had an interview with you earlier this week where you talked to your son about the new job he was taking this week.
No, that's what you think.
Okay.
Well, I talked to him about that, just not all of the prostitution, drug, and taking of money from foreign nationals.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he may not be doing that. He's probably not. What he's doing.
All right, this is a bit of pantomime theater. I think we'll eventually get to the moving past the verbal irony and sarcasm to whatever his fucking actual point is.
That I don't know. I've never talked to him about it. So that story's kind of falling apart now, isn't it? I mean,
nope,
a little bit.
Nope.
And yesterday, let me start here with. Jim Jordan setting the stage. Cut 12.
You know whose story hasn't changed? These two guys.
Yeah, it started out as irrelevant and stayed that way.
Their testimony has been consistent. Throughout, their testimony has been the same.
Right. That's not the point. We're not saying they're lying. We're saying they are making specious arguments about bullshit. They have always drawn the wrong and idiotic conclusion from what was happening around them. Let me be abundantly clear. Here, if Jim Jordan's going to set the scene, let me set the scene for any trolls that might stumble upon this video later, and let me help you out. If you are pissed that Hunter Biden was not charged with a felony and they didn't go after him for every possible connection and all that kind of stuff, the couple of people you need to be mad at are these two assholes, because they're the ones who tried desperately to incorporate shit from the laptop, which was outside the scope of their investigation and was not verified as far as the content of where it came from. The material on the hard drive copy that they had of the copy of the copy of the copy, none of that shit that they read online. These guys, this isn't like, oh, we got to look at the real one at the FBI or whatever. They were trying to incorporate shit they got online through Rudy Giuliani and other sources into the case. And if they managed to do it, if they actually were able to predicate any of their investigative direction from stuff they got from Marco Polo, the website where they posted stuff from the laptop, or from Miranda Devine's fucking book, or from Rudy Giuliani himself, or a copy of stuff, or the New York Post article, which is where they source a lot of what they're talking about when they discuss this shit. If that stuff was actually incorporated into the investigation, the entire investigation would have been shut down because of Fruit of the Poison Tree. Period. And because these guys were so entwined with it, and because they were on the case for 5 years, that is one of the primary reasons why the prosecutors thought we'll lose this case if we take it to court.
Guess what? 2 days ago, an FBI agent confirmed their testimony. Who are you going to believe? The Justice Department can't get their story straight, changed 3 times in 33 days, or these two guys?
I don't know which FBI agent he's talking about.
The Justice Department that was found to censor Americans just 2 weeks ago from the federal court in Louisiana. The Justice Department.
Yeah, during the Trump administration.
That said moms and dads are terrorists. The Justice Department.
No, they didn't. The Justice Department never said moms and dads are terrorists. This might be shocking to you, but some terrorists fuck. And some terrorists get pregnant. And some terrorists end up having kids and are parents, but that's not why they're terrorists.
Department that said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
No, that's not what they said.
The Justice Department that can't get his story straight are these two guys.
Who don't have a story at all.
10 years, over a decade of experience for each of them. The go-to guys in international tax evasion cases. The A-team when it comes to investigating these matters all over.
If they're the A-team, I'm dead serious. If they're on the A-team, we know that by their testimony, there are often cases that involve billions of dollars of evaded taxes. Billions. Not millions. Not even hundreds of millions. If they're the A-team, why aren't they on the billion-dollar case? Why are they put on a case that is ultimately worth less than $2.1 million? Max. I guess tax-wise, that's nothing to sneeze at. But you think on a corporate level across the United States, that's the top end or the middle or the low end of tax evasion cases? Seriously.
Over the world, they've done this.
And then they got what? They got a shit case like this one?
And who've been consistent throughout. I think I'll believe these guys. I think they're the ones telling the truth. And that is fundamentally what this comes down to. So God bless you guys for the work you've done, the courage you have, and for being here today, stepping forward because you care about equal treatment under the law.
No, they don't. No, they literally, for the record, later on in this hearing, this guy and Jim Jordan engage in some math. And the math they come to is that all the money given out from CEFC and Burisma and one other source in Romania, which they don't really talk about as far as the singular. They just say the country of Romania, but whatever. That all of it together is that Burisma paid Rosemont Seneca, the company of which Hunter Biden is a partner, $6.9 million, and that the CEFC paid Rob Walker and all these other guys all together, the company that they were forming, the whatever that conglomerate, the LLC they put together, paid that one $4.6 million or something like that. And then the remaining stuff was $3 million or something like that. Altogether, they come to the conclusion that the Bidens received $17 million, which is all of that money together, which means no one else who worked for Rosemont Seneca got a dime. Which means, now that would mean that all the partners in Rosemont Seneca, of which there were 3 main ones and 2 other ancillary guys, everybody but Hunter Biden worked for free. Now, let's just say that you're an IRS agent and you're looking at a company, and one of the guys in the company files financial papers that says he made $4.9 million over a period of time. And it all goes to him as an individual. And everybody else who works at that company pretends to make nothing. They go, no, I didn't get paid at all. Who would you investigate? Would you assume that the person who admitted that they were being paid is the person who's being the least truthful? Or would you assume that the 4 other guys who allegedly worked there did all their work for Burisma and these other companies and the mayor of Moscow's wife? They did it for free. And so they have no money to declare. And so you as an IRS inspector go after, of 5 people who are engaged in a company, the one guy who admitted that he was paid in a financial transaction and in a business deal, and you leave the other 4 alone. U.S. citizens, but you take their word that they didn't make a dime in this. So they have no money to declare. They have no taxes to pay. The whistleblower, by the way, this is Whistleblower X, in case you're wondering. This is Ziegler. This is the guy who's the gay Democrat and Okay. That's what he's talking about. Would that seem fair? Would the one person who you believe underreported how much money they made, but reported that they did indeed make money, and then ended up paying restitution on the taxes that they didn't pay, that guy who got 5 years worth of investigatory attention and is now getting an entire committee hearing where people are releasing nude pictures of him, do you think he is being treated fairly compared to the other members of that fucking company, who neither of these guys are talking about whether Rob Walker underpaid his taxes? They're not talking about any of the other guys. Does that sound fair?
That's what's at stake, plain and simple.
Now, there's a push for a special counselor.
No, they're not going to get a counselor. Nobody gets a shrink out of this dipshit. Special counsel or special attorney. There is arguably a push for neither.
The special counsel to look into the. I'm not sure what more you need.
Yeah, I have an idea. How about a quo? Now, I don't believe they showed a quid here because Hunter Biden made money as an investment broker with a group of other investment brokers, and that's what they do for a living. So they were paid for the services that they did at the time, not a future service that they're going to provide, especially ones that happen allegedly after Joe Biden is no longer president. But the quo would be nice.
I mean, it's all on videotape, and they have all the documents.
It is.
And they have 80 notices from the different banks that they were using saying, we think this is money laundering. I mean, I don't know how much more you need to be able to indict, but I don't know. We should ask them about Donald Trump because they got so much on him.
He was officially called a rapist this week. A judge found that the jury decided that he was indeed a rapist. Now, normally, good old-fashioned Christians would have a problem with that kind of behavior.
Let me show you how some of the things that these guys testified and how this is all coming together. Now, this is one of the guys, top of the IRS. He's
top of the top. That's why he's dealing with a case that is politically charged and that goes after what was at that time the sitting president's main political opponent, and the irony that they're having a weaponization of the political government. The DOJ meeting is hilarious. But Trump appointed, I guess that guy, Shapley, was elevated during Trump. They were put on attacking the Bidens because they were worried that he would run. And then they promote him to the top of this team after, like, at the beginning of the election year, when it's clear Biden's going to run.
The whistleblower, Gary Shapley. He said they wanted to interview Hunter Biden. And here's what happened. 3.
We've seen this before. This is when they the FBI tipped off the Secret Service that they were coming to interview.
The FBI SSA and I were assigned with interviewing Hunter Biden that day. And the day previous, we went to the LA FBI field office and asked them to the special agent in charge to contact the Secret Service special agent in charge from the LA field office at 8 a.m. on the morning of December 8th and tell them that 2 agents were going to approach Hunter Biden as part of an official investigation. And the night before, all of that changed.
And all of that changed because FBI headquarters and Secret Service headquarters coordinated, and that.
What? Fuck it! You just asked them to coordinate, and they were like, "Yeah, we already did. We knew you were on a flight out here. We already did. We set it up already." What are you saying that the difference is they should have called him that morning because they were going to interview him later that morning, and they called him the night before? Who gives a fuck?
And that information had gotten out to everybody the night before. And
as opposed, okay, so midnight the night before or 8 a.m. the morning of, they had to coordinate this. They knew they had to coordinate this. That these FBI agents were going to walk up on Hunter Biden and he's got Secret Service protection because he's getting death threats all the time. And they knew they were going to coordinate it. So they what do you think he did? He shredded a bunch of shit? What's the argument? That he had time to call his lawyer and he wouldn't have called his lawyer when you were there? Or if you let him know at 8:30 in the morning, he wouldn't, by the time you got there in LA at 9:45 a.m. at the absolute earliest, his attorney wouldn't have already made a phone call and they go, yeah, we're not talking to my client or whatever.
And we can talk about whether it's a highly political investigation and all of those.
It is. It was. It still is.
Those different things. But there's another group of people that was made aware of that the night before, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that would be the transition team.
That's correct.
And the transition.
Uh-huh. Why is that surprising? The Secret Service has coordinating meetings during the transition with the president about his family members. Of course they're going to know about it. Are they supposed to be kept in the dark? Here's the thing, and they keep talking about how this is so unusual. It's so unusual. When's the last time you went after a president who was just elected to office and were sicked on him by the guy that was campaigning to make sure he didn't win and lost to him? When did that happen? Give me just so I have a baseline.
Team is a political operation set up to help the president-elect vet cabinet employees, work on inauguration.
Make sure none of his family are assassinated in the lead up to him becoming president or kidnapped and used as leverage against the entire United States. And therefore, the Secret Service would be on high alert during a transition because they have now been assigned to the president-elect and his fucking family. Many of, who ran against a guy who a lot of his followers, driven by his former national security advisor, believe is engaged in the drinking of children's blood. Gee, I can't imagine.
Do all of those things. I mean, is that your understanding?
Generally, yes.
Generally.
Have any special investigative powers I don't know about?
Not that I would know of.
In your entire history and working in history with the IRS, you ever worked with a transition team of a president to help set up an interview with?
Notice how he called him a resident instead of the president. That slipped out. Armstrong called Biden the resident.
You ever worked with a transition team of a president to
Notice how I didn't say president. He said resident.
help set up an interview with a subject of a criminal investigation?
I have not.
Have you ever dealt with an investigation that involved the child of a newly elected president? Ever? Have you dealt with anybody who had Secret Service protection? I think would be the easiest question.
Last question. Did you ever get to interview Hunter Biden?
We did not interview him.
Holy cow. Holy.
We did not. We didn't get to interview him because we didn't have probable cause to believe a crime had actually been committed. And we fucked up.
Cow.
Laughable.
Stunning.
This is the same quality of investigation we got from the cocaine in the White House. Like, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to give up. We're not even going to talk to people who may have been in the room. I mean, they won't talk to the principal. They never interview the person that they're talking about here?
No, happens all the time. You do realize that your Fifth Amendment rights allow you to not sit for an interview with people. You do realize that Donald Trump pled the Fifth 400 times in New York. So did Eric, by the way, his son, because they asked him the same fucking questions. So, I mean, you could argue that he was forced to sit for a deposition in the case of when Trump pled the Fifth, but he didn't volunteer, and he certainly hasn't come in on a bunch of these other cases where, unless a judge orders him to come in, and then when he does, he pleads the Fifth.
I mean, it's insanity.
You know the person that should be impeached is Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland? Does anybody know who Merrick Garland is? Somebody look him up.
You know the person that should be impeached is Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. I agree. Merrick's brother is just, first of all, he shouldn't even be hanging around the DOJ anyways, because when people call out his name, both of them turn around.
Absolutely, totally, positively, he should be impeached.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think Merrick Garland should be anywhere near. The guy didn't even take the oath. What is he doing there?
Because he's the one that is pulling all of the strings for this. Listen.
He is? Hey, asshat, this was in 2020. That happened under Bill Barr, you dumb fuck.
Listen to this. He goes on to talk about what
other stuff that happened under Bill Barr.
The DOJ also allowed.
In 2020. Who was president again in 2020? Dipshit.
I think this is the next cut.
It'd have to be.
Cut 4.
The Justice Department allowed the president's political appointees to weigh in on whether they're charged the president's son. After United States Attorney for D.C., Matthew Graves, appointed by President Biden, refused to bring charges in March 2022, I watched United States Attorney Weiss tell a room
appointed by Donald Trump
full of senior FBI and IRS senior leaders on October 7th, 2022, that he was not the deciding person on whether charges were filed. That was my red line.
Yeah, it turned out that not to be the case.
That's a different story. Now, the other whistleblower, his name is Ziegler, cut 5. Listen to this.
There was an environment when we were interviewing witnesses where you were afraid to ask questions.
Why? How did they enforce this environment? How did Joe Biden and the Biden campaign, who were not present, how are you afraid to ask questions? What did they say to you?
Questions that could lead to the presidential campaign.
The presidential campaign. Why? Because this is a private citizen. And for the record, Is this similar to the fear that people had about asking Trump about Russia in 2016 until he was already elected?
And this is after the campaign's over. So questions like that, it was restricted, and I was...
How are you talking to the campaign after the campaign's over? You mean the transition team?
So things like that we were limited to talking about.
Or is he going to yawn again? Run that by me again.
That could lead, when we were interviewing witnesses, where you were afraid to ask questions that could lead to the presidential campaign. And this is after the campaign's over. So questions like that, it was restricted, and so things like that we were limited to talking about.
Okay. Has anybody heard any allegations whatsoever that there was foreign help for the Biden campaign running for office, the way there was for Trump through Russia and China, for example? What campaign are you talking? What is he talking about? I'm genuinely, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I think his own, unless he was arguing that there were financial shenanigans going on in how the campaign was paid for, which I have never seen a single accusation, even from these idiots, about. And I don't mean just Ziegler and the other dude. I mean this one and his buddy Stu.
What?
Wait, I don't even know what he's talking about. It's because he's not talking about anything.
Who's running things?
Well, at that point, it's funny you should bring it up. You know who's running things? Donald John Trump and Bill Barr. That's who. It was 2020, dumb fuck. Do you not know?
Here he is again, cut 6.
I will also note that while the impression has been conveyed by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware that he has similar powers to that of a special counsel in this case, free reign to do as needed, that was not the case.
He said special attorney.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials.
Well, he doesn't say so, but you seem to think so because you think he should have gone further. While you refuse to go after anybody else who worked at Rosemont Seneca, who apparently, according to you, didn't make a dime for any of the work they did for half a decade.
As well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
Why? Did you discover money that he continued to have hidden? Is there more money there? Do you believe you found transactions that exist beyond the scope of what you found as far as money hidden and the like? Where is it? Where is this money? It didn't get written. It didn't get spent. You haven't found any other people, even though you were able to talk to people at Burisma and at CEFC and people related to that. There was no other money exchanging hands. That's why the deal was made. So what would the...
One last one. Here he is
also gibberish, by the way.
laying out the money trail against Hunter Biden. Cut it.
Great. Here's the money trail against Hunter Biden.
Right.
Let's get into the evidence, Mr. Ziegler.
Evidence. Here we go. And this might be the part where the math gets really fun.
I want to direct you to pages 99 and 100 of your transcript. How much money did Hunter Biden and his associates receive from the Romanian company you identified?
And his associates. Okay, that's important. Okay, 1 second. Let's see. Ziegler. Transcript. Let's see if I can find. Is that it? Neil, opening statement, committee, executive. Oh, that's executive session. I need the. Hold on, back up. Rat. Ziegler pension PDF, I guess. I know, got folks for the political analyst position. Okay, that's wrong. Tony Ziegler, document Ron Ziegler transfer to oral history, Tony Ziegler. Got a lot of Zieglers in here. All right, well, I'll have to find it. But we'll take what's wrote that they're saying.
So that amount would be from Romania. So the approximate total transfers from the Romania company would have been $3.1 million to everyone.
$3.1 million. How much did Hunter Biden and
3.1 million to everyone.
his business associates receive from State Energy HK Limited through the Robinson Walker LLC?
So total transfers from State Energy HK to Rob Walker was $3 million.
$3 million. Was there a $100,000 payment from CEFC Infrastructure to Owasco PC, Hunter Biden's professional corporation?
Yes, Chairman.
Approximately how much was transferred to Hunter Biden and his business associates through Hudson West 3?
So the total transfers from Hudson West 3 to everyone was $3.7 million.
$3.7 million. How much money did Hunter Biden and his business associates receive from the Ukrainian company Burisma?
And his business associates.
Burisma paid to everyone involved $6.5 million.
Paid to everyone involved $6.5 million.
$5 million. Burisma also paid Blue Star Strategies and a law firm hundreds of thousands of dollars, bringing the total Burisma payments to over $7 million. Is that correct?
That is correct, $7.3 million.
Look at the money.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that those companies got for shepherding, in the case of Burisma, close to, I guess, $750 million worth of investment. These guys got paid the financial equivalent, interestingly enough, of chafing cream for the handcuff that attaches the briefcase full of money to your wrist.
And what is it that Hunter Biden was doing exactly?
Okay, so Burisma and the other oil and gas companies in Ukraine have newly discovered oil or gas fields. One of the reasons why Russia invaded Crimea and the Donbass specifically was because if you control Crimea, because of maritime law, 275 miles off the coast of Crimea, you control the oil and gas fields that had been discovered there, which is almost all the way to Odessa. So they claimed this area so that they could get those places. Now, Burisma and a couple of the other companies were the companies that would mine the oil and gas out of Ukrainian territory and then create the pipelines specifically that would get the gas out of Ukraine and get it to Europe to other folks. Now, there were Russian interests that did not want that to happen. Russia wanted to use their own pipelines specifically to control politically Europe by that point, mainly Germany. If Ukrainian gas and oil comes online and Russia has a choice to spend their money with Ukraine, which is an independent country that was leaning towards the EU and was having real elections, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, they were going to go with Ukraine. So Russia spent a good deal of time undermining companies like Burisma and the like and filling them with corrupt oligarchs who, when investment would come in, would steal that money and give it to Russia and fuck off. And the companies wouldn't expand, wouldn't build pipelines, wouldn't be profitable, and would be overrun with corruption. So Rosemont Seneca is hired by Burisma to bring in investment, to be their voice for investment, to go out and speak to venture capitalists and giant hedge funds and shit like that and say, invest your money in Burisma. You'll get a return on the money because we will be there to make sure that the money is spent where it's supposed to be spent and doesn't fuck off to Russia again. And that is exactly what happened. Before Rosemont Seneca gets on the scene, Burisma is fucked as a company. After they show up, it's a profitable company and people are seeing their return on investment. It doesn't matter whether any of those guys knew what the fuck the intricacies of gas mining or any of that shit was. Now, keep in mind, Hunter Biden's his uncle rather, James, had not only experience in building stuff and dealing with contractors, mainly in Iraq and other countries, but also in mining. They knew all these guys who were in it, and he could be he could ask him as a consultant or even just as his fucking uncle, hey, how does this work? Are we going to be okay? And they would do that. They would talk back and forth. So anything he didn't know, like, are these assholes yanking my chain about this, Uncle Jimmy? And he would go, yeah, they're fucking with you. Or, no, that's what you'd need, and you're going to need a certain amount of this. How much are they saying this costs? That's for real. If they say it costs more than this, they're skimming, and you should watch out for that. And that's what happened. So everybody who asks, like, oh my God, Hunter Biden didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. These are the same people who whack off to Wolf of Wall Street as if any character in that knows anything about retail or Donald Trump doesn't know fuck all about construction. He knows minimalistic stuff about interior decorating. That's it. He farms everything else out. He's a mouth. He has blueprints around his fucking props, and he's been in the business since he was a kid. His father used him as a tax write-off when he was a child. And again, the way to solve this with these idiots is you're in a situation, there's a gun to your head, and you have to make a choice. It's a binary choice. You only get one of two choices. You have to invest your money in Burisma. Sorry, is that how it's pronounced?
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
So you have to invest in Burmese. And your choice is a timely one. You can either invest in it before Hunter Biden comes along or after. These are your only choices. Which one? When do you do it? Before or after? Honest answer. You have to do it. One of those situations you will make money. One of those situations you will lose all your money. Which one do you think it is? All right. So, do you have a flag? So, they knew what the fuck they were doing because Burisma is a functioning company now.
I mean, how much would you pay the drug addict? How much would you pay the guy who's selling, buying crack, smoking it all the time?
I don't know. Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? Have you ever seen Wall Street? Do you have any idea how much cocaine is done on Wall Street?
Seemingly very undependable and going through hookers one right after another every day.
Well, because he's financially a shepherd, so he doesn't have to be there. He's not hammering nails every day. Well, actually.
How much would you pay for that employee? Because I'm pretty sure it would.
I'll tell you what you would pay. You would pay a hefty fucking sum, and I'll tell you why. Because his partners, who may know more about this stuff than he, are on the job every day going through the numbers. But the main reason that his partners, who you can't fucking name at this point in your transaction with them, with Rosemont Seneca, the reason his partners can't take that money and fuck off, the reason they can't run away with that money, the reason why you don't have to worry about your money getting through is because Hunter Biden's an employee and his father was vice president, and you know he can't get away with it. He can't disappear into Russia. He can't vanish like all the other people who were bringing money in and stole it and fucked off. That's why. You know, simply, if he just sits all day smoking crack and sleeping with hookers, it doesn't matter. Because he's there, you know exactly where he is, and where he isn't is taking your money and running off to Russia with it, which is what everybody else did.
Be a little less than $7.4 million.
No, it wouldn't. Not when you're investing $750 million.
What did
he
add?
I could explain it to you, but I think you'll ignore me and in the middle of it start sucking on a Sonic.
What did he add?
He added his name. Because the name attachment meant they couldn't run off with the money.
Now, if anybody is questioning who these people are, here, let me play cut one. This is the first whistleblower who talks about who he is. Listen.
There's no benefit for me blowing the whistle on this case, absolutely none. I have no book deal, and the only money that goes into my bank account every 2 weeks is from my employment for the federal government.
Yes, and he got a promotion during the Trump administration, and he was put in charge of this case during the Trump administration. And if he's the guy who blew it, then he's going to lose his job if Trump gets back in, and Trump's supporters are going to think he threw the case on purpose, like Durham. This is CYA. That's what he gets out of it.
Listen to the other guy, cut 7.
I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man.
Citation needed.
I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me.
Right. I agree. Neither of you have any credibility.
Due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs.
Which are what?
Truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures. I was raised and have always strived to do what is right. Although I do have my supporters, others have said that I am a traitor to the Democratic Party.
No, again, I would question your assertion from the start.
And that I am causing more division in our society. I implore you to consider that if...
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're causing more division in our society. Never mind the fact that there's a dude sitting over your left shoulder with an Ashley Babbitt fucking shirt on. Never mind that fact. I don't think you're actually causing any more division. You're causing a little more confusion because Republicans have to like, quote unquote, a gay Democratic Party member who's an IRS agent. That's the only discomfort. None of my criticisms of what this dickhead is saying or what Shapley are saying have anything to do with their alleged political affiliation.
If you were in my position with the facts as I have stated them, ask yourself if you would be doing the exact same thing.
I would not, because I would be aware that it would be my fault that the guy who got what I thought of was a sweetheart deal was my responsibility, because I tried to incorporate evidence that would have gotten the whole case thrown out and almost screwed the entire thing.
I hope that I am an example to other LGBTQ people out there who are questioning doing the right thing at the potential cost of themselves and others.
Not bad for a Gruber, right there, right, Glenn?
How is this not the topic and not the only talk in Washington, D.C.?
I'll tell you why. I got this one too. I'm so glad. You know what? It's funny that Glenn is getting into one of his I can't believe it, so he throws a bunch of questions out. And there's a reason why lawyers say never ask a question in court you don't already know the answer to. Glenn doesn't know any of the answers to any of his own questions because they are meant to be rhetorical acts of exasperation. I'll tell you exactly why. Because James Comer said last week that the guy who is coming forward is going to, quote, connect the dots and provide evidence of the reasoning behind the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden influence peddling that points to not just that money came in, but why the money came in and what for. That the foreign entities that gave Hunter Biden money were expecting something in return and they got it. And this guy was supposed to come in and tell everybody what that was. They believed they had the quid and the pro, but they just didn't have the quo. And this guy is going to roll in and tell you what the quo was. This guy was going to bring in, here's the policy, here's the signed piece of paper from Joe Biden after he was vice president of the policy that he changed, whatever. But he was going to bring that stuff in and attach it all. And the reason he brought this guy in and why they made this guy testify and why they did it now is because the Gal Luft story fell apart in less than 48 hours. Because Gal Luft is a Chinese Communist Party agent. He's worked for them for almost 2 decades. He's anti-America. He's anti the US dollar. He wrote a book called De-Dollarization. He was talking out of his ass, and he's an arms trader. He was trying to leverage destroying the Bidens so that, with this bullshit made up stuff because, hey, I'll tell a story about him if you'll just cover my ass and give me an escape. And the Republicans were happy to oblige. But the story fell apart. It ate shit in a matter of hours. And so they had to do something. Oh no, we can't bring this guy in. We're not going to be able to put him on tape. So we'll play the fact that he can't be put on tape, and we'll say, well, if he could put him on tape, he'd tell him everything, and that's why they don't want him. Right? They can absolutely send a team through his lawyers to interview him and put him under oath in future if they ever catch him, if he violates if he lied to them or lies to federal authorities and the like, they'll arrest him. He'd already done it once, so there's no reason to believe he wouldn't do it twice, but they're welcome to give it a shot. And then we bring these two guys. So they needed somebody to cover. So they bring in these two guys. And Ziegler had not wanted to come forward. And they essentially said, you have to. You gotta now. Or they're going to chew Shapley alive. So you worked with Shapley for years, and they're going to fuck him if you don't help. And they threw this together in a matter of a couple of days. And Comer came on television on multiple channels, on Newsmax and Fox specifically, and said, when this guy comes out, he's going to show you what the Chinese, the Romanians, and the Ukrainians got from Joe Biden in exchange for this money. Things that allegedly happened during the time Trump was president, based on promises made when Joe Biden was vice president, for things he would have no control over even as vice president, and certainly not as a former president when they lost somebody like Donald Trump, who had utter contempt for Democrats and utter contempt for Obama. Why in the world he would somehow like Joe could get him on the fucking phone and pressure him is just silly. But whatever. That was the argument. That's what they're saying. And so this guy was going to come in and say, look, here, we know this money came in. We know he was getting paid for this. We don't think he got paid for what he said he got paid for, which was being an investment broker. We think it was because of this bill that Joe Biden helped get through to benefit the Chinese or the Romanians or the Ukrainians. That's what they promised. And then 2 days later, I think it was on Sunday, Comer goes on Maria Bartiromo and a couple other shows. And they ask him, what does he know that we haven't heard already? And he says of Ziegler, this guy knows the numbers for about a third of the stuff that we have brought up. A third of it. Ziegler only knows a third of the alleged payment information they've had so far. A third of it. We've already heard this stuff. Not only is he giving no new information, he doesn't even know the other bullshit we've already heard. And on top of that, he certainly never at any point was able to tie money that was paid to Rob Walker or Rosemont Seneca or Hunter Biden directly or to a hooker or to anybody to any change in U.S. policy to benefit anyone that paid the money. I mean, obviously, Joe Biden and Barack Obama did a lot of changes in U.S. policy that benefited everyone. But that's just politics.
This is so clear cut.
No, it is not. It is. I almost swore. And like worse than usual.
Well, the good news is you have men like Mitt Romney on it. And yesterday, Mitt Romney
Mormon on Mormon violence
commented, cut 12.
Well, as you all know, today is National Hot Dog Day. And perhaps you also know that hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs.
Oh, dear.
I had a beat off.
Hot dog is my favorite meat. Okay, hot dog is not a meat. Hot dogs are made from meat and lips and buttholes.
I love them in buns. I love them
Oh, dear.
outside of buns. I love
All right, wait, back that up. I mean, getting freaky.
Hot Dog Day. And perhaps you also know that hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs. I love them in buns. I love them outside of buns. I love them with baked beans. I just like hot dogs. It's the
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like dick? Yes.
What?
Best, best meat there is, without question. So to all of you who, like me, are celebrating National Hot Dog Day, congratulations to you, and may there be many, many more hot dogs served in our wonderful land.
Wow, that's great.
I mean, that is a takedown.
Also, I gotta say, like, this is just a weird, unnecessary cheap shot at Mitt Romney. Yes, that's a ridiculous video. There are way better jokes to be made. I think I made some of them about that specifically.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
And that video, I have no doubt, will provide us with great joy forever.
Moon River.
You know what I mean?
In buns, I love them outside of buns.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
I love them with baked beans. I just like hot dogs.
Moon River.
Right. So, that said, using that video of him doing kind of just random shit for his own constituents because he's a goober, because he represents Utah. Honest to God, who gives a shit? And who puts, and yes, and to quote Dirty Harry, what's the matter, Harry? Rough night, all nookied out? No, it's not this. It's not the teachers getting thrown out of third floor windows because they don't give A's. It's not the old ladies getting their head bashed in for their Social Security checks. That's not what gets to me. You know what really gets to me? What? Watching you stuff your face with those hot dogs. Nobody, I mean nobody, puts ketchup on a hot dog. What are you talking about? Talking about we got our fingers in the dike and the whole goddamn thing's falling around us. Sudden impact. You're welcome, America. All right.
Wow, that's great.
I mean, that is a...
And also making it like he doesn't care about this stuff, or that's been his response. When quite frankly, you're just taking an obtuse video of him doing something else, which we could do with... You could literally cover, like, talk about a flood or something or awful that happened in the world. Like, for example, as of today, actually late last night, the Russians have now reached the 250,000 dead in the Ukraine war. 250,000 dead soldiers. And they're talking about a Mitt Romney hot dog video. See how that works? See how easy that is? I mean, why isn't that the news everywhere? That the Russians have killed 250,000 of their own just to seize another country for no fucking reason, but their own sort of murderous employ. And these guys are doing videos about Mitt Romney and a hot dog.
Take down. That should be under the headline: Mitt Romney destroys Hunter Biden.
By the hot dog. He grabs him by the hot dog.
Moon River.
Piece of malware called Q-Snatch.
Yeah,
and his
he loves wieners.
Family. He does love the.
Yeah.
He
loves wieners. In the buns, out of the buns. And notice the Freudian slip where he says it's International Hot Dog Day when he's wearing a hat with a hot dog on it. I think he's saying something there. Might have been a little graft. Might have been somebody stopping by the old office saying, here, have a hot dog and maybe a hat. Why don't you promote us?
Yeah, big hot dog. That's who did it. Yeah.
Moon River.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for going after big hot dog now. Ironically.
Is there a little Hunter Biden? How many hot dogs did Mitt Romney get just to do that little ad for them? I'll bet you 2 or 3. I'll bet you 2 or 3 happen. And then after that, he's going to be all over the other hot dogs. And the impeachment proceedings.
All right, I don't know what the fuck. Do you guys know what the fuck he's talking about? I certainly don't. Honest to God. Like, some days I feel like, all right, a little honest reflection time, and then I got to fuck off. I went long today, and I was happy to hang out with you guys because you're wonderful, and I thank you. And don't forget to hit that like button on your way out the door and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And look at that. Look at we got the thank you, Pezzy. for resubbing. Look at that. Flip-a-ding. Boing. It's starting to work again. It was funky for a while. We got some Zoltans in there. Fill that cup up. It's good stuff. So, let me tell you a little something. Sometimes when I'm watching, all the political stuff that, because I drink from the fire hose of the news cycle, that I see the same argument over and over and over again. I feel like sometimes I'm dealing with the same lie over and over and over again. And my biggest concern in those situations is because the lie won't stop, making my rebuttals and my responses entertaining for you guys and making them stick for anybody who shows up who doesn't watch regularly, this might be the first day you've shown up at the show, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. But you might not have seen all the other times that I've covered this horse shit. It might be new to you. And so I have to keep that in mind when I do the show and not fall into, and help. Honestly, being a stand-up helps because you have to treat, CSL, seriously. You have to treat every audience as a new group of individuals every single time. And it's the challenge of stand-up comedy for a lot of folks. I've always had it easy in that regard because I adore you guys and I really do like people, but not a lot of my contemporaries do. Let's be frank. And so, but when I'm doing the show from my living room, from my little offside room, where I've set this show up by myself, speaking into this camera and talking to the chat that's right there and looking at the clip that I see, which is right about here. Actually, technically speaking, I'm looking at here. This is my eye line, so when I'm watching the clip, that's where my eyeballs go. So I put it up to my side, but that's really what I'm looking at. I'm watching it the same as you are. And it's just how I arrange what I'm seeing and what we're both seeing at the same time. It's not crucial, but it helps sometimes. But when I'm going through this stuff, I sometimes struggle with this idea that, I feel like I'm, a dung beetle put, in the story of Sisyphus, just pushing this turd up the hill and watching it roll back down sometimes. But at the same time, like I said, I don't know when somebody's new or my take on explaining it, which might evolve over time and become clearer because we experience these things and we get a deeper understanding of what they're actually doing. There are days we have a realization, like, oh, this is what they're saying. This is what they're trying to do. And so I can't assume that won't happen. So that's my motivating factor when I'm doing the show every day. And what I struggle with is making sure that I'm not just like phoning it in around these things. The struggle is real. And when I'm dealing with people like Glenn Beck and Stu and all this, who are, quite frankly, have made an entire career with these ham-handed attacks, and they never seem to, they unflinchingly dive into the bullshit head first every time. So when I'm dealing with them, like I said, there's a lot of repetition in it, and I try not to, I don't want to bore you guys with it. I want to keep it real about that, but I also want to push to make sure that we're all aware of the latest rebuttals, even in these cases. So in doing that, there are a couple of areas, we know the most important of all the commandments, thou shalt not covet. It's what gave us Jamie Gum. What does he do, this man you seek? He kills women. No, that is incidental. He covets. Right. Yeah, and there's a reason why covet made the cut in terms of the 10 Commandments. It's a big one. It's very different than being a striver or greed even. Coveting is, I want what you got, not what, I don't want something similar. I want the actual thing, right? That's why coveting is dangerous. And so I want a similar studio like Glenn has with all the TV sets and all that kind of stuff. Now mine would, of course, obviously run on solar and geothermal, and probably I have my own little micronuclear thorium reactor. I'm working on it. I've been talking to ChatGPT about how to design one on a smaller scale. But I do want that. I really do. I really do want to blow this thing up into a much bigger show and make it a thing upon a thingy thing. Before I retire as the next Reverend Gene Scott sitting in front of a giant chalkboard reading scriptures on my horse farm filled with aging playmates. A boy can dream, can he? But one thing I will always fight is ever being in a situation where this asshole is bored by his own lies. That is something, because of you guys and because of this show and because of the nature of it, I will never have to wrestle with at all. There's not going to be a time where I'm like, man, I'm tired of this same old bullshit. Because because the truth's on our side and we have a good time. And more than that, I think this is crucial, you have to remember that